The silent passenger. Kael was a man who hated silence. He kept the radio up, the windows down, and the engine humming. He believed that as long as there was noise, he was still part of the world. But his new cargo didn't allow for noise. It was a cube 2.5 meters high, coated in an experimental acoustic version of VantaBlack. It didn't just look like a hole in space. It acted like one when they loaded it into his trailer. The sound of the forklift's engine seemed to vanish as it got closer to the box. The cargo is a vacuum of information. The handler whispered, though even his whisper felt sucked into the blackness. It's going to a deep space observatory in Norway. Do not sing. Do not talk. Do not think too loudly. The box is hungry for vibration. 5 hours into the Arctic Circle, the radio died. Not because of the signal loss, but because the speakers were still moving, yet no sound was coming out. The VantaBlack box was beginning to reach through the walls of the trailer. Kael rolled down his window. Usually, the Finnish wind was a roar. Now it was a ghost. He watched the trees bend in the gale, but he heard nothing. He honked his horn. Silence. He slammed his fist on the dashboard. Silence. Kael realized that sound is how we prove we exist. It's the echo of our presence against the world. Without it, he wasn't a driver. He was a spirit moving through a pantomime. The silence wasn't empty. It was heavy. It was a physical weight pressing against his eardrums, demanding to be filled. By the second day, the box had finished eating the world. Now it started eating Kael. In the absolute quiet, Kael's own thoughts became deafening. He remembered the things he had spent years trying to drown out with his V8 engine, the face of the father he hadn't spoken to in a decade, the regrets of 1,000 missed exits, the fear that he was just a man moving boxes from one nothingness to another. The box was a mirror. Because it had no content of its own, it forced Kael to provide the content. He realized the silent passenger wasn't the box. It was him. He had been a silent passenger in his own life, letting the noise of the road make all his decisions. In the void, there was no road. There was only Kael. Kael stopped the truck in the middle of a frozen lake. He walked to the back and opened the trailer. He stepped into the darkness. He didn't scream. He didn't cry. He sat in the dark, inches from the cube, and for the first time in his life, he listened. He listened to the lack of a heartbeat. He listened to the space between breaths. He understood then that the Deep Space Observatory wasn't looking for stars. It was looking for the beginning of time, the moment before the Big Bang, before the first sound was ever made. To see the light, you have to be able to endure the dark. To hear the truth, you have to survive the silence. Kael forgave himself. not with words, but with a stillness that was deeper than any noise. When Kael delivered the box to the observatory, the scientists were shocked. Most drivers arrived at the destination trembling, near a nervous breakdown from the sensory deprivation. Kael climbed out of the cab with a look of terrifying clarity. He handed them the cargo and walked away. He didn't turn on his radio on the way home. He didn't need it. He had found a frequency that didn't require speakers. Kael still drives, but people notice he's different. He speaks less, but his words carry more weight. He moves with a grace that comes from knowing exactly how much space he occupies in the universe. He is no longer afraid of the silence, because he knows that the void isn't where things go to die. It's where the real story finally begins.